We say on Tuesdays, what do we say? Happy Tuesday. Turn to your neighbor, say Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Bruce can do it. No, we're gonna pass on that today.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So welcome if you're a guest here. How many of you guys have been to a workshop before? Say aye. Good. Keep your hands up if you've been to 5 or 10 or 20 workshops, 30, 50, 100 workshops. Good. Errol, you can come right up here. Yeah. Well, welcome. So tonight is one of those events where you're going to keep learning and keep growing. You're here for a workshop. What workshop are you here for? Brain workshop. Okay. What do you want to learn about the brain? How to fix it? So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it ain't broke, if it's bad, we need some fixing, right? Okay. So your brain's pretty important, yeah. What's your brain worth? Everything. Yeah. So it's yeah. So we need to get down to brass tacks. We really need to get into this. I know many of you sitting here are. You probably have some good self-image as far as doing healthy things, right? At the very least, you're getting adjusted, most of you. You're eating good, or pretty well. Many of you are exercising, and you're doing a lot of good things. But I posted a video this morning that said, there's three types of people. There's people who do nothing and just wait for the test to show that you've got a problem, and then by that time you start treating it. It's what? It's too late. And then there's the other type of person that's proactive, and they're doing things, like eating good, exercising, getting adjusted, and they keep doing the same things, but they're not looking to do the best that they can or necessarily do better. So sometimes we kind of miss the boat because nothing ever stays the same, right? If you want better results and you keep doing the same thing, then you're going to get the same results. Nothing's going to change. So that brings us to the third person. The third person is the person who's always looking to continue to learn and grow. Raise your hand if you're green and growing. Raise your hand if you're ripe and rotting. Nobody. Jim, no. That's not true. So you were green and growing, and that's why we're here tonight, because you got to keep learning, got to keep growing. When you stop learning, you stop growing, and you stop growing, you start what? Dying, yeah. So let's get on with the show and see what we can unearth here and dig up in terms of some new findings, some important findings. I want the light bulb. Well, the lights are going to go off here so you can see the screen, but I want the light to go off in your mind and find the gems here tonight in the next 30 slides that you can take with you and start plugging in to make your brain healthier and your life better. Right or right? Right. Okay, so pay careful attention. And if I see any eyes getting heavy, I'm not saying any names, but I might call you out. So dementia and Alzheimer's is one of the fastest growing diseases in the country. Probably know that. You've probably noticed the same thing that I've noticed, that there's more people around you and in your life that you notice are getting dementia, brain fog, forgetfulness, Alzheimer's. And I've seen people die from cancer. I've seen people die of heart disease, diabetes, and I've seen people waste away from Alzheimer's disease. And you know what scares me the most? Alzheimer's. I don't want to go that route. And I want to help everybody who's here to prevent that in every way possible. That's why this is so important. First sign is short-term memory loss, and then you have brain fog, and this is what they call pre-dementia. So the point isn't to scare you. The point is to say, okay, what else can we do here besides what we're already doing? First of all, take inventory of whatever kind of medications that you may or may not be on. And as you get older, that's just what your doctor does. If you're going for your regular visits, more than likely, if you're over 50 years old, it's not normal to not be on prescription drugs. Most people your age are what? They're on drugs. They're on medications, prescriptions, 2, 3, 5, average senior citizen who's not like in a room like this looking to get better or healthier. They're on easily 10, 12 different medications. And many of these contribute to and are causative factors for memory loss and dementia. anxiety, insomnia medications, antidepressants, anti-seizure medications, cardiovascular medications, probably the most common, Coumadin, atenolol, metoprolol. I saw this with my mother-in-law. She was on it for atrial fibrillation, and as soon as we took her off, we noticed a big improvement in her cognitive ability. So pain medications, we see this. I don't have to mention chemotherapy, you guys know that, and statins, cholesterol drugs. It's a known fact that you're doubling your risk of dementia if you continue to stay on cholesterol medications. Did you know that? And if you're not yet comfortable with the idea of stopping, discontinuing those, then you either need to watch my Heart Smart workshop online or be at the next one that we have here coming up in September. It's after next month. And I promise you that will raise some big question marks in your mind, because all the research that backs that statement right there comes from medical journals, the most prestigious medical journals in the world, which acknowledge that. And so we show you what not to do, but we also show you what to do instead, and be practical with that. So let's talk about hippocampal fitness. Say hippocampus. Hippocampus. So what is that? Is that like a hippopotamus? So it's a little part of your brain that you see up there in the right-hand corner that's for memory and learning. And that part of your brain, like most of your brain, either grows or it shrinks. So you're probably interested in which part? The part that makes it grow. Did you know that exercise makes your hippocampus grow? But it's not all exercise. It's a particular type of exercise. So if you're just doing like yoga and you're stretching, that may be good for you, but it doesn't necessarily contribute to brain growth. What this study showed was over a 12-month period of time, elderly individuals who engaged in moderate intensity aerobic activity, which is more than just a brisk walk. All right. So if you can have a comfortable conversation with your spouse while you're walking, that's still low level. But a more moderate level would incorporate maybe some kind of weight training, weightlifting. We talked about that right before, didn't we, in our anti-aging workshop? All the research, guys, is showing now how this is the fountain of youth, when you can start lifting weights. And this is what part of this pointed to, that moderate level of intensity. I'm not saying a brisk walk is bad, but I'm saying that if you can get your heart rate up even a little bit more 3 times a week, you're triggering something in your brain that causes that hippocampus to actually grow. And that's what they found after 12 months. Those people who did that 3 times a week for how long? 20 minutes. That's it. That shouldn't be a deal breaker. Actually showed increase in volume of the brain, of the hippocampus. So if your memory is important to you and your ability to continue to learn and grow and your brain be flexible in that capacity, you need to be dialed in on not just exercising, but the right kind of exercising. Can I give you an example? You know, I lift weights typically 3 to 4 days a week. The other couple of days, I've gotten into this routine over the last year of just doing brisk walks on my other 2 days, which is not a bad thing. I enjoy it. How many of you guys enjoy a brisk walk? It is. It really is a nice way to start your day. It's different than weightlifting. It's different than other exercises. But I used to be an avid mountain biker. I used to go out for mountain biking on Saturday, sometimes during the week, and that really would get my heart rate up. But it did other things that I forgot about, like balance, coordination, right? And that uses a different part of your brain. And this is what studies are showing also. You have to be well-rounded with all these different types of exercise. So, in your newfound venture of making sure that you're incorporating all avenues and aspects of things that can cause your brain to grow, think about other things besides weightlifting or moderate intensity exercise. Maybe biking, getting on a bike for 20 minutes. That's going to cause you to use different parts of your brain than just a brisk walk. How do I know? You know what happened when I went out for the first time 2 weeks ago? I was not quite, thank goodness. No, but I was like, I took it easy because I was like, I felt like my balance wasn't there, my coordination wasn't there. And these are trails that I've been doing for 20 years. And I was like, whoa, I am way off. And I realized right then and there the value of how important this is in making sure that you're engaging different aspects of your coordination during exercise. So whether it be weightlifting or brisk walking, or like Bob Barker, on the dance floor, again, what are you doing? You're using different aspects of this. Some people like to do kickboxing, or they'll do jiu-jitsu. You got the point, right? You got the point. You have to come up with different things because on average, you're going to lose 1 to 2% of your hippocampus, the volume of that every single year, if you're not exercising, or maybe even if you are just doing yoga or stretching, or not getting enough of the moderate intensity exercise and all of these other aspects that need to incorporate coordination in your brain. Maybe you're exercising, but you're not stimulating it on this level. And your hippocampus could still be shrinking. That's interesting, isn't it? So think of all these other activities like tennis or some of these other sports where you really have to engage your brain. And do that a couple of days a week and mix all these activities up. By the way, the non-exercising control group that was in this study as a placebo, guess what happened to the size of their brain? Actually shrunk. So, point made. Okay, so what else can we do besides physical activity to grow our brain? How many of you guys play a musical instrument? You like to play music? Only 2 of you. Wow. Okay, 3. What do you play?
Drum.
What? The drums? Oh, all right. I like that. That's a good man right there. I like to play drums. I got a little set. It's in my attic. don't play too often anymore. But I do appreciate a good drummer. Who else plays an instrument? Paul, what do you play?
Piano.
Piano?
French horn.
French horn, okay. When I was in band in high school, I played the trombone for 2 years. And I never learned to read music. I played by ear the whole time. Both years I got straight A's in band. So I was gifted with a musical ear. I still play guitar. Some of the videos. How many of you guys see the videos that I post in the mornings? You see the guitars in the background? And my youngest son just started. He was like last year. He asked me to teach him, so I taught him some chords and things, and he took off on his own. So one of our things is, we'll go to the guitar store and we started trying out guitars. He bought a 12-string, so I helped him get that. And then I picked up another one. And now, that's what I do every single day. And I can tell you that there's definitely a place of peace in my life. And it has an effect, a calming effect on your brain. I don't know what it does, but I didn't study it to the degree that I'm talking about right now. But all I know is that when I see that thing, I make a beeline for it. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I just play for 5-10 minutes, I stand up and I'm a different person. Like my brain is completely rewired and it's like hitting the reset button. How many of you guys have ever noticed that? Paul, have you noticed that? Errol? Yeah, when you get on that, you get into this flow. And you're using a different part of your brain. So that's all I want to say about that. Think about taking up an instrument because that will help you grow the hippocampus, that part of the brain for memory and learning. Play Scrabble. We did this over the last couple of weeks when my son was home. All my boys were home. We went on vacation. We were all huddled in this 28-foot trailer up in the mountains camping. And that's what we did. Every night we played Scrabble. And it doesn't just have a social benefit, and that does have a benefit to your brain, but also it helps you exercise all the neurons there as well. Work on crossword puzzles. And then I like this one down here. Read, write, or sign up for local adult education classes. Hello? Welcome to an adult education class. Are you learning something here tonight? Yes? Yeah. Good. All right, so what do we have next month? If you haven't gotten one of our workshop cards, it's got every workshop scheduled out for this whole year. And in 2 months, I'll be doing next year's schedule. So make sure you get one of these workshop cards so you can see what comes up. So next month is titanium immune system. So keep on track. Keep coming to the workshops. every time you come to a workshop, you leave better off for it. Right, Luther? Right. Sleep. Which picture do you like better? The baby or the washing machine? You want to sleep like a baby. But when you are sleeping like a baby, what's happening is something like the washing machine. Because your brain is being bathed in cerebrospinal fluid. And that cleanses your brain of all of the toxic proteins and byproducts that occur during the day from stress and all these other things. So you really need to get through these deep stages of sleep during your night. And you need to do it deliberately. Like if you don't have a good sleep schedule, if you don't have the right sleep environment, it's challenging for some to get down into deep sleep for recovery, and then REM sleep for creativity and problem solving for your brain. And each of these different levels of sleep are critically important for normal brain function. If you don't, guess what you do to your brain? You damage it. You damage it and it starts to shrink. And you increase your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So this cleansing strategy for daily cleansing of the brain has to be taken seriously. There's garbage in your head that builds up all day. I mean, I'm using that term loosely, but you really need to take the garbage out, and the time that your body does it is when you sleep. And if you're robbing your body of sleep, you're causing brain damage. 7 to 8 hours a night. The schedule needs to be consistent, and for those of you who are getting to bed at the same time and your body wakes you up at the same time, that's the best that you can do. If you go to bed different times every night and hoping that you wake up on time, you're really hurting your body. You're making it difficult. But for those of you who are on a steady sleep schedule, you'll always see the best and the most consistent benefits, right? Make sure that your room is dark. Make sure it's like a cave in there. Make sure that you shut out as much light as you possibly can. Otherwise, it's hard to fall into those deeper stages of sleep. There's disruption because of the light. The room should be cold. It should be at least 72 degrees or less. At least 72 degrees or less. And if you have a hard time wrapping your mind around that, then put another cover, put another blanket on you. Try it and see that you will sleep deeper and better as a result of that. Make sure that you're not watching TV or looking at your phone or reading on an iPad in bed before you go to sleep, because that scrambles your brain and it makes for poor sleep. If you're a coffee drinker, I'm not going to tell you that's the worst thing in the world, but timing for you to get good sleep, you really need to be careful with caffeine consumption. So to be safe with that, if you're somebody who is trying to get to bed between 9 and 10 o'clock at night because you have to get up at, let's say, 4 or 5 in the morning, you should not be having any sort of caffeine or stimulant after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you have afternoon coffee, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you're kidding yourself. It's not going to work well for you. Your sleep is going to be disturbed, and you're not going to see the same results. And make sure also that you give your body time to rest and digest while it sleeps. So your last meal, so if you're like me, if you're trying to get in bed by 9:15 because you got to get up at 5 and you're shooting for the 8 hours, even though I usually come out somewhere by 7.5 hours, then I try to eat my last meal by 6 o'clock. Not going to happen tonight. I'll probably eat at 7. But 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep, don't put another morsel in your mouth. All right? Go to sleep, not so much on an empty stomach, but don't be snacking up until the time that you go to sleep. Because, again, to get good sleep, your body can't be digesting food while it sleeps. That's not the time to be digesting food. That's the time to be resting and recovering and healing. Does that make sense? Yes. And your brain needs a lot of focus with that from your sleep time. Exercise and sauna helps you sleep better and deeper. Did you know that? I've talked about this before. Last year, I had a slide in there that talked about all these benefits and all these studies that came out of Norway, where the Netherlands, where everybody has a sauna in their house. And they found such a reduced risk of dementia and Alzheimer's with people who did sauna like every day. For some reason in that country, everybody has a sauna. And they just did this study and they found a strong correlation between sauna use and the reduction of the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. Did you know that? Wow. Yeah. So, aside of that, it does help you get a better night's sleep. I got a sauna last year after I looked at all the research. I went on Amazon and I got me like a small one, that's something that easily fit in my house. And I'll do it a few days a week. And, I monitor my sleep with my fitness watch. And by and large, the nights that I do my sauna, I get a better sleep score. Right? Rodolfo, you get a better sleep score when you work out, when you exercise, and when you get your chiropractic adjustments, right? We talked about that. So for those of you who monitor your sleep scores, you will notice these things. You can take it to the bank. One other thing, if you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep or getting a good night's sleep or getting a good sleep score on your watch, this is one supplement that will help relax your brain. It's called Neuromag. It's got something called magnesium threonate in it. Crosses the blood-brain barrier, helps to calm your brain, relax your brain, and it does help. I mean, we use this with a lot of our patients, and people get good results with this. So it's something to consider. Matthew?
Is it a pill or powder?
It's powder.
Interesting.
Yes. And chronic stress. Anybody here not have stress? What? Okay. So let's talk about stress for a minute, because I can't take the stress out of your life, but I know that there are ways to cope with stress. And I want to share some of that with you right now, because as it pertains to memory loss and brain damage and brain disease, you got to understand that this is a serious subject. I've seen stress do people in for a lot less. And when it comes to this, the research is there to physiologically know how the damage occurs, and it especially hurts the hippocampus. It causes shrinkage, and it increases the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's and memory loss. So we need to get a hold of this. We deliberately, just like our sleep schedule, need to get a hold of when this is happening. The best time to do it is really to do it in the morning, as far as what they say, filling your cup before the rest of the world pours it out. All right? So I'll just give you some examples. This is what I do. I wake up and I give my first fruits to the Lord. I pray. I ask the Lord to lead me. The Bible says that the steps of a good man are ordered. So I pray that the Lord show me what He would have me do today and enable me to do it. And then I just turn it over to Him. And then I open up my Bible and I start reading. I want to read some truth. I want to read some direction. I want something to bring me peace. And I know that there's peace with God that you have to have first. And with that, after comes peace from God. So once you have fellowship with your Creator, then that's where you can tap into your source for peace. And lots of people have lots of different strategies, and I used to be one of those people. And I used to try to formulate and create my own. And I was happy for a little while, but it never really got me to tap into the truth. And there's really only one truth. And the place that I can tell you that you'll find it, and it's never going to change, like the 6 o'clock news, it's in the Bible. It's in the Word of God. It doesn't change. And the Lord is always there for you. He loves you, and He never forsakes you. And His Word says that you can cast all your care on Him because He cares for you. The Bible is a user manual for your life. You don't have to figure it out on your own. You don't have to ask anybody else for advice. You just turn it over to God. You ask Him, and He gives you the answers. All the answers are in the Bible. And when the answers are there, and you know He's faithful, and you know you can trust Him with your life, then that definitely is a good way to help you with your foundation for all the stress that's going to fall on you. And when it does fall on you, after a while, you kind of know where to take that to, if that makes sense. And then after I pray and I read, I exercise. We call that the spiritual triathlon. Because exercise, obviously, everybody knows, has a physiological response on your body, releases endorphins, and that helps you manage stress too, right? So it all works together. And besides the fact that, I know from a spiritual standpoint, I also know that the Bible teaches me that I'm supposed to be a good steward with my body, with God, with what God has given me. That I was bought with a price, that my body's not my own, my life is not my own. And I look at that from a health perspective as well. And I want to be a good steward with my health. And I want to do the best that I can. And I know you do too. That's why you're here, because you want to learn more. and you want to be a good steward with your health. I was reading in Ecclesiastes this morning that, talking about vanity, and there's nothing better than for a man to enjoy the fruits of his labor, right? Eat, drink, and be merry, and enjoy the fruits of your labor. And I started thinking to myself, well, initially you think your labor is your work, right? You're building homes, you're a construction worker, you're building cabinets, you do whatever you do. That's your occupation. But that's not just your labor. We have other labor also, right? We also labor now with what we're talking about, with our health. We're working on getting healthier, right? And why are we doing that? So we can use the gifts that God has given us to serve Him. That is the purpose of our lives. That is the purpose of our lives. The only reason why you have two hands, two eyes, the knowledge that you have is because God has given it to you. And what a waste it would be if we let that go. If we didn't develop that for His good and His glory. So think about that. Think about who you are. Think about what gifts that you have that can not only make your life better, but all those most importantly around you for His good and His glory. Doesn't that just make sense? And that's why it's so important for you to start your day in the Word, praying and exercising. Because that gets your compass calibrated for who you are and what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, we're aimless and we become tumbleweeds as soon as we open up our Facebook, our social media, what our friends and our family are telling us to do, and we're being pulled in all ends. Right? So we're supposed to build our foundation on solid rock. And that's what we need to start with. And this again is not just your spiritual health, that's going to translate to your physical health and your brain health as well. In the middle of the day, it's a good idea to, if you can, take a break. Unplug. 15 minutes. I'll take a 15-minute nap because I have designed my schedule to be able to do that. Now, I'm on my feet all day. I'm doing this all day. So it does feel good to lay on my back. Okay? But then also I put on noise-canceling headphones and rain, and I actually close my eyes. And I'll go out for just 5 minutes. I wake up, my brain's refreshed, my body's refreshed, and then I'll come back for the afternoon shift. Now, if you can do that, great. It's definitely something that helps your brain and it helps your body. Or go outside, take a brisk walk. If you don't take a nap, go do something to unplug, change up, shake it up. Spending time with your friends, your family. You're the architect of your life. You can design your vacations, your family time, your work, the things that you do. You just have to sit back and look at the big picture. Stand up and look at it from a 30,000-foot view and say, okay, look at my relationship as a father. Look at my relationship as a wife. Look at my relationship as a mother, a daughter, a grandfather, a grandmother. And look at all these aspects and areas of my life. Where do I need to put more time? Where do I need to invest more time? Well, first you got to take the time to take inventory, right? Take inventory, right, Errol? Take inventory. When are you taking inventory? And from there, you start to design like an architect how you want your life to look. And these are some of these things that you should consider for your mental health. All right, now I want to share this with you because this has to do also with your brain health, but this is going to come out of left field a little bit. Some of you may have seen this video. I haven't shown it in a while, but this is Jim McMahon. He used to be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. And how football players, they get head injuries and brain injuries, concussions and things like that. Well, he was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. And you're going to see how the story unfolds. It's really interesting and what this has to do with your nervous system.
This is what I do to try to keep my brain sharp during the day. I've got these puzzles, and it helps me to just try to remember things, colors and where things go. I knew I was missing a couple pieces. The doctor actually told me that this would actually be good for me to help keep my brain sharp and functioning because at times it tends to wander.
Jim McMahon is 56 years old. He now spends most of his time in his Scottsdale, Arizona home, where the dry desert air best suits his long list of post-football aches and pains.
This is my daily routine. What am I doing? What am I looking for?
But what the climate can't combat are the symptoms associated with brain trauma McMahon suffered as a player.
Bad headaches, pressure on my skull. I couldn't see very well. I couldn't talk very well. All I wanted to do was lay down, because my head was just constantly pounding. The pain had gotten so bad where if I had a gun, I wouldn't have been here. And these two doctors from New York called me and said, "Hey, we think we can help you. We think we know what's going on." I said, "Let's do it."
In a chiropractic office.
Diagnosed with early onset dementia. He had been complaining about a brain fog, as he described it, as well as he described it, a headache where he felt like ice picking on both sides of his brain.
While most concussion studies are focused on the brain, McMahon's team traces the effects of CTE directly to the upper spine, having found that neck misalignment can block the flow of spinal fluid and pool toxic proteins directly onto the brain.
Spinal fluid is white. That's the spinal cord. This is the spinal column. What you're seeing is a narrowing of the opening where the spinal fluid is supposed to come through.
Most of the time when you're having head problems, that's all they look at is the head. These guys are smart enough to at least look below the head at the neck and see if there was a problem somewhere, and they found my problem. They're not going to be able to reverse the damage. Like you said, that stuff was sitting in there for 20 years. So how much it ate away at my brain, I don't know.
Using detailed images captured by the MRI scans, McMahon regularly receives targeted adjustments, clearing the blockage and restoring the flow of spinal fluid.
On the
It's
Atlas.
going to generate a gentle mechanical tapping that is just lightly going to put those bones right back into normal position.
Atlas adjustment.
Okay. Then sit back up.
First time they did this procedure, within 2 minutes, it was like the toilet flush. I could feel this stuff actually leaving my brain. And my eyes cleared up, my speech cleared up.
The left is before, the right is after. So you see how much there is there? See how there's less in here? Instead of all this white stuff being there, you're seeing more brain tissue than fluid. So it's already started to bring. Over the next several days, it'll improve more.
What damage is done, it's done. I can't reverse it. But what these guys do for me, they keep me from having these bad pains, having these suicidal thoughts, having me function fairly normally while I can't.
So pretty interesting, huh? Did you see the before and after the MRI? And that was from one adjustment in one area called what? The Atlas. Okay. So remember, every time you come in, I'm checking both sides. I'm looking at the temperature, because how much of that cerebrospinal fluid do you want flowing through your brain and cleansing your brain and moving and functioning properly? All of it. Whether you have a headache or not, whether you feel good or not, we want to catch it before so that you stay at your best for how long? Forever, yeah. And so, unfortunately, they caught it late in the game for him because he was getting beat up for decades. But still, it made a difference, a huge difference in the quality of his life. And I apologize. I mean, for some of you in the room, for a lot of my patients, I just do a horrible job at explaining the power of a chiropractic adjustment. I had one girl come in yesterday. She's like, I got this thing in my mid back, and when I do my home care, it makes it worse. So it's just not going away. So I wasn't sure if I should come in for my adjustment. I just stopped doing my home care, but I just figured, you know what? Let me just stop my adjustments, put them on hold for a little while. I'm like, what? Why would you do that? All healing and function happens through one system, and one system alone. It's your what? It's your nervous system. So if your muscles are going to heal up because they're in spasm, or your digestion's going to improve or heal up, if your blood sugar is going to level out and heal up, if anything's going to heal in your body, you have to do it through a clear what? Nervous system. So how is there any type of scenario possible where you'd be worse after an adjustment? Like when in doubt, you get what? You get adjusted. If you want to get healthier, I didn't say feel better. I didn't say feel better. If you want your body to function better and regain health, when in doubt, you get your nervous system checked because that's the irrigation system. It's like the electrical system in your panel. You're just going, making sure that the breakers are on. Home care's got nothing to do with that. I'm sorry. I did a horrible job educating her, and I want to apologize to some of you maybe in the room who you think that I'm just cracking your back to move the joints so that your range of motion's better or so that your back hurts less. You know, that's just a side effect of your body healing you, not me. All I'm doing is moving the bone and removing the interference so that your body can do what it was created to do. Does that make sense? Now, when I look for interference, I look for it in the form of bones that are out of alignment. Because like you saw in the MRI, that bone in the top of his neck was out of alignment, impeding the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid, and it can do that to individual nerves that branch off and go to important organs like your heart and your lungs. So that little nerve that's in between those two big ones is being pinched off, and if it's going off to your heart and your lungs, it's not uncommon that people develop heart and lung problems that are not getting proper nerve supply to that area. The problem isn't the heart and the lungs failing, that's the effect. What's the cause, right? But when you go to the doctor, they're not going to check your spine. You go to a medical doctor, they're not going to check you for interference in the nerves going to your heart. They look at your heart, they say you got a condition, here's the medication for it, right? We go to the circuit breaker. We look to correct the cause, the source and the root. Is this making sense? So that's what I do as a chiropractor. I locate and correct any nerve interference so the body can heal itself, so that person can be the best version of themselves. Every man, woman, and child, doesn't matter how old you are. I take care of babies that are hours old, and I take care of people in their 90s, 100. It's just what's the best way to put it? There's really no situation that I've ever encountered where there's a contraindication to adjusting somebody. There's always a method, there's always a technique to accommodate whatever situation that person has, whether if it's a fracture in the neck, if there's surgery in the neck or in the mid-back. I don't adjust those areas. We work above and below them, right? But there's always a way that I have found in my 30 years of practice to improve upon a person's nervous system if we take the time to evaluate that individual properly. That's what I have found. But does that mean that a person doesn't ever need to go to a hospital or medical doctor? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that beyond all the scope of those other professions, they don't look at the nervous system to improve function and healing like we do in this office. And how we do that is we look at the nervous system. In the top part of the neck, if you have subluxation up there, you just heard that testimony that he had headaches. Not to mention early onset Alzheimer's because of nerve interference at that level. You see dizziness, tiredness, headaches, high blood pressure can come from problems in the upper part. That area right there, I just showed you the heart and lungs, asthma, cough, difficulty breathing. Down here, the intestines, constipation, colitis, your gut. All these areas that I'm showing you right now, do they have the potential to disturb the blood supply going to your head? Yeah. And diminished blood supply to your brain cells may contribute to what? Brain problems, dementia? Yeah, exactly. So are you saying that a problem with your spine can actually be a risk factor for brain disease? Absolutely, 100%. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. You betcha. So what's the most important thing? Make sure you're getting checked on a regular basis, whether you have back pain or not. If you want optimal health, just like you go to a dentist every once in a while and get a cleaning before you have cavities, you go to a chiropractor that looks for these things on a preventative basis to make sure there's nothing interfering with your nervous system long before you have a disease that's diagnosed. When's the best time to find these things? Before or after they're on the scene? Before, as early as possible. So the technology that allows us to do that is thermography. We use that. That's NASA space technology that we use that most of you gotten. We see patterns that show us inflammation, that show us where the nerve pressure is. And if we see that, then we'll verify that with an x-ray. And then we look at those two together and we eliminate the guesswork. And if there's a problem there and you don't have pain, most of the time my patients are happy about that. Because, again, if you can correct a problem before it rears its ugly head, what is that worth? Yeah. So that's the value of these testings. If you're feeling great and you've never been to a chiropractor, you haven't been in a long time, if you're sitting here and you're like, this is making sense, but I don't have any problems. Now, there's a difference between feeling good and being healthy. Two different things. You could feel great and drop dead of a heart attack in 10 minutes, right? You could feel great and have cancer ravaging your body right now and not feel it, right? So there's a difference between feeling great and actually having normal function and good health in your body. And that's what I'm talking about, the value of the test shows. So if you're a guest here and you've never had this done in this particular approach, then we have one of these things for friends and family. It's a certificate, it's a friends and family health coupon for the consultation, the exam, x-rays, the report of findings. This will save you a good $300, $350. It's normally $450 for all that. This is for $97. So if you're a guest here and you want me to evaluate you, see them before you leave, Deborah, tomorrow. They'll give you one of these. And if it's for somebody who's here, great. Maybe you're thinking about a family member or somebody that's at home that should have been here. You can take one for them. They do have a 2-week expiration on them because we don't normally include the x-rays in it. This is an amazing gift that you could give to somebody. So feel free to ask for one if you think that that's something that you could benefit from. I know it's something you could benefit from, but it's your choice. Ask them on the way out, and they'll get you set up with that, with a consultation, and show you how that works. Okay, so I want to take a brief moment to call up Deborah and Tamara, and I want to acknowledge some very important people here, starting with Deborah and Tamara. Hey. Everybody give them a big round of applause. Woo-hoo. We love you, and we appreciate you. Okay, so I want to recognize a few people here, and this is for perfect adjustment attendance. These are people who are literally dead on and really like clockwork with their adjusting schedule. And we want to thank you and appreciate you and recognize you for doing such a great job with your commitment to care. First one is Graceland. I saw you back there, Graceland. Stand up. Everybody give her a big round of applause. Rodolfo and Morales, you guys stand up. Everybody give them a round of applause. And Deborah, grab me one. And this one is for Errol. Everybody give Errol a big round of applause. Yes. You gotta wear that with pride. The Elevation Health Medal of Honor. Looks great. Yep. All right. And then I have one more, and this is for 6 or more workshops. Deborah, if you can come on up and deliver it to, this is our Elevation Health University Core 4 degree. So she has graduated with 6 or more workshops. She'll still keep coming. Like some of you guys have been here 100+ workshops. Micheline's well on her way. Micheline Thomas, give her a big round of applause. Deborah's coming back for you. Awesome. All right. So in the interest of making sure that your mind can endure what your seat can endure, or your mind can absorb what your seat can endure. Something like that. Come and stand up, turn and face the person on your right side. Put your hands on their shoulders and wake them up. Put your hands on their shoulders. We're going to give them a massage. Squeeze their shoulders. Get the blood going. And now we'll do karate chop. Good. Awesome. All right, turn around and love your other neighbor. Good. Get that stress out. This actually helps the brain grow. All right, karate chop. Neurons are firing. Brains are enlarging. Everybody's looking smarter. All right, give yourself a round of applause. Yay. All right, heads up. We We got things, we got objects flying. Be careful, here they come. Oh. All right, good. That's good for hand-eye coordination, which also facilitates proper brain function, which is good. All right, so you ready? So let's finish up here. The thing we also have to be on the lookout for is our blood sugar. And if you are a diabetic, you double your probability of Alzheimer's disease. Think about it. What does diabetes do to the blood flow? It clogs it up. It shunts it, especially to the brain. That's one aspect of it. But there have been studies done. There are long-term studies. They looked at 6 years worth of MRIs to see which test best correlated to brain atrophy, and they found that the A1C was the most predictable. They found that when they compared the degree of brain loss with the people with the lowest A1C with the highest, the brain loss with the people with the highest A1C was double than the people with the lowest A1C. So basically, if you are constantly running high A1C, if it's above normal where it should be, again, you're doubling your risk of Alzheimer's disease. So when's the best time to start getting control of that? Now. Yes. So the other thing that the sugars do and the carbohydrates is it causes inflammation. Besides altering the blood supply to the brain, there's inflammation of the brain and rampant inflammation really throughout the body. But insulin resistance really is something that they call now type 3 diabetes because type 3 diabetes is now interchangeable with dementia. And it's because of the effect that it has on the brain and the gut health as well. So it destroys all of the good bacteria in your gut, and it just so happens that they're calling the microbiome in the gut the second brain, because really where a lot of the brain function starts is in the gut. Your neurotransmitters, your feeling of well-being, serotonin and things like that, 80% of that is manufactured in the gut. Your immune system, everybody knows that your gut serves a vital function in terms of your overall health. And a lot of that is coordinated with the brain. So much of that is destroyed with poor nutrition, particularly with these inflammatory carbohydrates. And when I'm talking about carbohydrates, not all carbs are bad. But I think you guys know a little bit of the difference between the good ones and the bad ones. But the things that we've been taught were good, that should be 60% of our daily staple, like breads, pasta, cereal, potatoes. Those are things that are driving brain inflammation and driving your risk of Alzheimer's disease. Does that make sense? Okay, so, and then not to mention, the other stuff like the juices and the high fructose corn syrup, that kind of goes without saying. But also, be aware of your artificial sweeteners as well. So if you're taking out your regular sugar, your regular sweets, and you think that you're going to avoid diabetes by having artificial sweeteners, you can't fool your brain. And studies are showing it's even more of a causative risk factor for diabetes than regular sugar. So avoid those artificial sweeteners like the plague. I just saw a study that came out that CDC is now recognizing that aspartame actually does cause cancer. How many of you guys have seen that? Wow. Yeah, we've been talking about that for years. So the three amigos, the three main things that I want to talk to you about, which are the most toxic for the brain, are the bad fats, the sugars, and toxins. What are they? Bad fats, sugars, and toxins. So we already kind of talked about the sugars. And I'm not just talking about your sweets like your cakes and cookies and stuff like that. We talked about that. Moving away from the breads, the pasta, the cereal, the potatoes, moving away from that into a different type of food regimen, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But also those sweets have with them something called bad fats inside there, trans fats and also hydrogenated fats. So you want to look at the labels. You guys know that trans fats and hydrogenated fats are bad, right? Why are they bad? Because they're like synthetic motor oil in your engine. They just don't break down. How many of you guys ever got a synthetic oil change? You get double the mileage, right? It doesn't break down. So these bad fats in your arteries, in your body, in your brain, they don't break down. and they just sit, they camp out in the tissues and the arteries and the cells, and they drive inflammation. Very, very harmful, very damaging to your body and to your brain. So you want to be on the lookout for this. Learn how to read the label. You see the label right there? What does that say? Trans fats. Oh, it's got no trans fats, so that may be good, right? But then what else is highlighted below there? What does it say? Yep, partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated. Same type of effect. You have to steer clear of all that if you're serious about your brain health. And it could be in the most insidious types of snacks, popcorn, almond butter, peanut butter. These things are supposedly healthy for us, and they can be healthy for us. However, you have to look at the label. A lot of the almond butters come with hydrogenated oils, so they're not always healthy. A lot of the peanut butters come with hydrogenated oils. And so you got to look at the labels so that you can see exactly what you're actually allowing to get in and protect yourself or expose yourself to harm. So, who's the captain of your ship? You are. Turn to your neighbor and say, you are. You are. Okay. And so you got fajitas there. Like Carlos likes to go to La Bamba. He's actually going there this Friday. So Carlos, I'm going to say, don't get the fajitas. Because what are they using to make those fajitas? Yeah. You think they're back there using grass-fed butter? They're using the cheapest, the cheapest garbage that you could imagine. And I love them. I know everybody there. I've been going there for 25, 30 years. But I'm not kidding myself. If I'm going there, I'm getting poisoned. So, I got nothing against the La Bamba people. They're great people. But don't kid yourself. If you're not making the food, you don't know what's going in there. Right. And there's not a darn thing you're going to be able to do about it. So just be real and try to go for the healthy alternative. So if you do go to a place like that, you may have a better shot at preserving your health, getting a grilled chicken avocado salad. Or maybe the what's that steak that they pound out, what is it? The palomillo with the grilled onions, and you get a slice of avocado, and at least you got some white rice there. I don't do the beans because I'll feel a huge difference with and without the beans. So anyway, I don't want to spend more time on it bashing La Bamba. I think you guys got the point, right? So make the shift. So get away from all this stuff that's making you overweight, tired, diabetic, driving your health into all the wrong places, and make the shift. Go online and Google paleo diet. We talk about this because the paleo diet is not something that I created. I didn't make it up. But when I look at it, it's got all the perfect ingredients for you to have a good foundation, an anti-inflammatory approach to your body and your brain. Does that make sense? What do you see there? You don't see any of that stuff. You see vegetables, you see low sugar fruits, you see proteins, you see good fats, and this is what your brain needs, because your brain is made up of 60% of your brain is made up of fat. It's made up of what? Fat. Yeah, the majority of your diet, that 60%, shouldn't be the grains and the pastas. It should be fat. The fats and the greens. This is what your body and your brain needs. And then on top of that, a little bit of protein, some veggies, and low sugar fruits. And that's your recipe for good health. So increase your good what? Fats. And you know what they are. The avocados, salmon, fatty fish, the good nuts. Make sure that they're not roasted. Make sure the nuts are not salted, right? The raw almonds, the organic almonds. Oh, but they're so expensive. I know. So is heart disease. So is an assisted nursing facility. So is memory care. Go down to memory care where we go visit my mother-in-law. It's $6,500 a month. It goes up 25% every year. Ooh. So, again, you can't rob from Peter to pay Paul. You said in the beginning, there's nothing more important than your health. So get the good stuff. I know it's not cheap, but you know what? It is cheap staying healthy. It's a lot cheaper staying healthier when you do these things. enjoy your cup of coffee. How many of you guys like a cup of coffee? I have a cup of coffee in the morning. I'll have a cup of coffee in the afternoon. I use it, but I don't abuse it. And you know what? If you don't like coffee, good for you. So that's okay. If you like tea, great. But you know what? There's been, coffee's got a bad rap. And I'll tell you when it's bad is when you're constantly hammering it all day. That's not good. Then you burn your adrenal glands out, cortisol goes up, cortisol damages your brain, it causes brain shrinkage, brain damage, all your hormones go out of whack, and that's a bad recipe right there. So use it, don't abuse it. What this study found is that midlife drinkers of coffee, they had a significant reduction of risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. This study showed 3 to 5 cups a day. I wouldn't even say do that. If you do a couple, 1 or 2 cups a day, you got nothing to worry about. Coffee has antioxidants, mountain grown organic coffee has antioxidants, magnesium, a lot of different minerals and vital components for a good spectrum of overall good brain health. So it is recommended while we're on the topic. Again, if you don't like it, that's fine too. Some other things, and by the way, coffee stimulates something called BDNF. Anybody ever heard of BDNF? Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And what that is that's the growth factor for growing, for not just maintaining, but also growing new neurons in your brain. Does everybody know what I'm talking about right now? The neurons are what fire and carry the messages and actually makes your brain makes it work. And remember we said your brain is either growing or it's shrinking. If it's growing, it's because you have higher serum levels of BDNF. And you want to be focusing on doing things that increase BDNF. What did we say one of those things were when we started? Exercise. Yes. Another thing that we just talked about was coffee. Another thing that we're talking about is curcumin, which comes from the Indian spice turmeric. But you have to have concentrated amounts of it, high dosage amounts of it, for it to actually stimulate BDNF. It's a powerful brain and systemic anti-inflammatory. And that's why this is a really important supplement for anybody who needs to be super proactive with their memory and their brain health right now. And EPA, how many of you guys take a fish oil capsule? Okay, so I want to give you kudos and props, but I also want to let you know that you can't be fooled. Because if you don't know what your EPA, your omega-3 number is, it's kind of like vitamin D. How many of you guys know people who take a vitamin D supplement? Almost everybody takes a vitamin D supplement, right? Everybody knows how important it is. But how many people know what their vitamin D number is? You do, but most people don't. And so that's like throwing away money because you're taking a supplement, but your vitamin D level should be ideally like it's 70 to prevent 50% of all cancers. For your immune system, it's the most important marker, right? All the people who died from COVID had the lowest vitamin D levels. The people who made it, the people who didn't get it, had the highest vitamin D levels. So you want it ideal, like it's 70. If you come out of a doctor's office and yours is 20, 25, or 30, and they say, okay, you're normal, God help you. Keep taking your 5,000 units a day. You're being fooled. You have to know what your number is. And if you see it that low, and you're taking 5,000, that's not working. You need to either double it or you need to take it with K2. And this is what people are missing. They're not getting the information that actually gets the clinical result that we think that we're getting. Does that make sense? Okay, so the same thing happens to be with your EPA. Everybody takes a fish oil capsule. But just like your A1C has a range which measures the red blood cell, the amount of omega-3 in your red blood cells should be somewhere between 8 and 12%. The question is, can one fish oil capsule a day do that for you? Can 2 do that for you? Well, for me, it wasn't. For me, I fell under my normal level. I was at 7.5% taking 2 fish oil capsules a day. Now, what is EPA good for? What did this show? In the study, this was one study that they did. They had patients that took an EPA DHA capsule for 6 months. They had double the reduction in errors on tests measuring learning and memory performance versus those who took a placebo. So as far as memory and learning, is this important for your brain health? We know that. It's not only important for brain health, it's also important for heart health. It helps prevent cancer. It's good for your circulation. I mean, it's one of the most important supplements that we could take, but it needs to be between 8 and 12% if you're going to get the clinical result that you're expecting. So how do you know? Well, you get a finger prick blood test. If you go to your medical doctor and you ask them for one of these, can you get it? No, not going to be done. That's why we do it here, because this is something that we found that people are looking for and they need. And it was a simple finger prick blood test, just like the vitamin D and the C-reactive protein. Get a little spot of blood, we send it to the lab, and we have it back in a week or two. And this is what you're looking at. You know right away where you're at. And if you're taking 1 or 2 fish oil capsules a day, you could be at 4. Some of you guys, I've tested people that are like at 2, 3. Gee, doc, what do I do? Well, start taking a supplement. What if you're taking a supplement and you come out at 5? What do you have to do? Take more, or actually, look and see how much more you have to take. Because with the report, you plug in your number there, and what it does is it tells you exactly how much your daily dosage should be to bring it up into desired range. And besides the fish oil capsules, there are lots of foods that you could eat also. That's on the report as well. So if this is something that makes sense to you, and you see the importance of it, especially for your brain health right now, and you haven't had it done, then ask them. Deborah can do this for you. She could schedule the appointment and do it for you. It's very reasonable. It's very inexpensive. You see, it's $70 for the test and the report, and we'll go over it with you and make sure that you're doing everything you possibly can to feed your brain the essential nutrients that you need to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's especially. So I got serious with this. When I doubled my fish oil capsules, I went from 7.5 to 10.5 in 4 months. 7.5 to 10.5 in 4 months. All right? So, as we always say in this office, we don't guess, we what? We test. Yeah. So I want to bring that to you for your benefit. If it's something that you want, just ask Deborah up front and she can help you with. And she's looking at the clock right now. And what that means is that I need to get a move on. All right, so finishing up here with toxins. I told you it's bad fats, sugars, and toxins. The 3 toxins that you need to be concerned with are lead, mercury, and pesticides. What are the 3? Lead, mercury, and pesticides. Okay, so 90% of women that are tested are incumbent with this, and they're passing it on to their kids. And that means that it's hereditary. It goes through the cord, and then much of that, especially the metals that get into our body, never leaves our body. And so lead, first and foremost, they've done tons of studies on this, and they find out it gets released. Lead gets stored in your bones. And as you go through life, when you get older, it gets released at different times. Usually when there's hormonal changes like pregnancy, menopause, when you get into your 70s, another time when there are skeletal growth spurts in kids, adolescents, your body releases lead from the bones. Did you know this? And so when this happens, it can lead to a lot of things like drug-resistant hypertension, Alzheimer's, weight gain. Those are some of the things. But we know for a fact that, and this goes way back to Roman culture, when they lined the aqueducts, the water aqueducts with lead, which was the beginning of the end for Roman civilization. So we know what lead does to the brain, and it blocks the synapses. So we know it's bad, but we also know that it's in our water sources today. We know that it's in most of the lipsticks and a lot of the cosmetics. And we know for a fact that if you weren't hatched from an egg, and you were born from your mama, that she lived in the lead generation, which there was lead in gasoline, there was lead in paint, there was lead everywhere, and it went from her to you. And that's just the way it is. And unless you do something to, at least proactively address this, it stays with you. So everybody's aware of lead. We know that's not good for us. What about mercury? You guys heard mercury and autism. I've shown you they had a hearing, a Senate hearing with autism being caused by mercury in the children's vaccines, and Senator Burton was grilling one of the FDA representatives, and because they showed the video I'm about to show you right now, they showed there, and you can see the introduction of a minute amount of mercury, what it does to the nerve cells, the brain cells. So I want you to watch this video, because I never showed it here before. The video down here below shows you what happens when your body and your brain is exposed to mercury. By the way, where do we get the mercury from? Fillings, amalgam fillings, even if you've had them removed. If you didn't go through the process of specifically detoxing, pulling them out of your brain, it's still in there. Where else? Flu shots, childhood vaccinations, immunizations.
Too much fish.
Sometimes too much fish. Very good, yeah. So these are all things, right? Now I want you to watch the effect.
Shown here is the neurite of a live neuron isolated from snail brain tissue, displaying linear growth due to growth cone activity. It is important to note that growth cones in all animal species, ranging from snails to humans, have identical structural and behavioral characteristics and use proteins of virtually identical composition. In this experiment, neurons also isolated from snail brain tissue were grown in culture for several days, after which very low concentrations of mercury were added to the culture medium for 20 minutes.
Watch the light there.
Over the next 30 minutes,
Right
the
there.
neurite membrane underwent rapid degeneration, leaving behind the denuded neurofibrils seen here.
You see how immediately it started shrinking back. So this has been a concern for decades now, and it just keeps getting debunked. So that's why it's so important that you understand that this is one of the most damaging things, causing brain problems, brain disease, and a contributing factor for children, sometimes a causative factor for autism, and then also in adults with dementia and Alzheimer's. And then the last thing, which we know, science is showing us today, is causing Alzheimer's, is glyphosate. What is glyphosate? It's the active ingredient in Roundup. And we've heard a little bit about this, but what I want you to understand about glyphosate is that we know that they apply, the majority of it goes on corn and soy. And there have been studies that show the correlation with senile dementia with the application of this going up from the mid-90s all the way up. And it's just, it's 100% correlation with this. But where does all that glyphosate go? It goes on our crops, and it goes to the corn and the soy. And then where does the corn and the soy go? Right here to our common foods. Like it shows here tofu and cereal, but really it goes way beyond that. Because who eats the corn? I mean, what kind of livestock are eating the corn? The chickens, right? The cattle, fish. You know, so when we're eating these things, guess what we're getting? We're getting glyphosate. We're poisoning our brains. And again, unless you're buying non-GMO and making sure that you're avoiding that, that's what's happening. But we know that glyphosate is able to cross the blood-brain barrier. This is why it causes Alzheimer's disease. Because studies also show that when you have elevated levels of glyphosate introduced, it elevates this beta amyloid, which is the toxic proteins that you saw Jim McMahon causing his Alzheimer's disease, right? They said it was pulling on the brain, that it was getting pulled into the brain. The elevated levels of beta amyloid is what causes Alzheimer's disease. So there's a strong correlation with glyphosate and those elevated levels, which causes the toxic proteins that build up. The neurofibrils entangling and all of that. So you got to look at this and you got to say to yourself, my gosh, how long did I live my life exposing myself to this? And yes, I may be eating good and exercising and doing all this stuff now, but what have I done to actually open the blood-brain barrier and pull this stuff out? Because if that's never been done, then if that's still lurking in there, then you still have a significant risk factor you're dealing with. So this toxic environment that we live in, it's all around us. Prescription drugs, vaccines, our cleansing, our deodorant, our toothpaste, our soap, sodium lauryl sulfate. If you're not buying organic, all this stuff, that's what's going in. So that's why the EPA says our indoor environment is 2 to 5 times more toxic than our outdoor environment. So the thing is, we have more toxins going in than our body can actually get out. Your body knows how to detox, but it's being assaulted 24/7 for like decades, and then all of a sudden it starts to spill over. And when it starts spilling over, like the bucket overflowing, that's when we start seeing those symptoms. The memory loss, the fatigue. It all starts to the brain fog. This is what starts developing. So, what I recommend to anybody here who's never done this before, somebody asked me yesterday, "Hey doc, don't you have like a simple detox or a simple cleanse?" Don't waste your money on that. Don't waste your time. I've done that before. I won't do it anymore. People have wicked reactions from that stuff, number one. Sometimes number two, it doesn't really do anything. Unless you have a program that can actually get to the root of this stuff and literally cross the blood-brain barrier and pull that stuff out of your head and the rest of your body and actually flush it out of your system, then you don't have true cellular detox. So the program that we do, it's a 90-day program. And the first stage that you go through is actually preparing your body to detox. Your body has to be prepared to detox. Otherwise, it's not going to get the job done. And when it does, you're preparing the lymphatic system, all the detox pathways, your gut, your liver, your colon. You have to strengthen these pathways. You have to strengthen the cells. You have to reduce cellular inflammation. You have to teach the cells how to detox. After 30 days, then your body's ready to detox. Then you go to the body phase. During the body phase, now your body is starting to move these toxins out. It moves it out of the body cells, all the organs, all the tissues. And your body and your colon is mopping it up and it's getting it out every night. And there's a special systematic protocol that we use to get it out. And we know this because we can retest. And after you do that for 30 days, then finally we go on to the brain phase. This is where the magic happens. This is where you start seeing your memory come back, your recall, your brain is firing on all cylinders, your brain is working in a way that you haven't seen probably in a long time. And I know this firsthand because I've done this more than once. So I had amalgam fillings, I was vaccinated as a child, I had all this stuff, the same thing that everybody else experiences. And I went through this program and it's like black and white. It's like somebody going to the wall and turning up the dimmer switch. And all the light comes back on in your brain. You're like, oh my gosh, I've been living in the dark all these years. So that's what I have to offer you. I wouldn't tell you to do anything else because you're never going to get the results. There's nothing that will cross the blood-brain barrier and get that stuff out like this program will. So how do you know how toxic you are? If it's something that you really need, besides if you have these symptoms of brain problems, get yourself tested. We have something called the meta-oxy test, where we give it to you, you go pee in a cup, we get a little sample, we put it in a reagent, it shows you the color red, what shade of red it is, and we put it up against the color contrast chart, and it shows you how toxic you are. And if it's bad, then you're definitely a candidate for the program. The other thing that we do is a visual contrast sensitivity test, because when you're toxic, it affects your vision, your visual acuity. So there's a special test. We have cards that tell us what type of toxicity is involved, if it's mold, if it's heavy metals, different things, and we could diagnose it there in addition to a questionnaire. Normally, the tests are several $100s. If you sign up to have an appointment, have it done tonight, it's only $97. I mean, if the meta-oxy alone costs $1,000, it would be worth it because it's the only thing that shows true cellular inflammation. So I'd recommend doing this. There's many of you in the room who really need it, and what we talked about is, making a change. So the supplements that you have in your handout there, just briefly reviewing this, the Ultraplex Cognition Boost is something to help with mental clarity and focus, mental energy. The Ultraplex Memory is specifically blended to help with memory and learning, protecting against cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. When you take the Ultraplex Memory and the Cognition Boost together, it has a synergistic effect. They're best taken together to boost the brain. And then the EPA, which we talked about, debunking the amyloid plaque, it protects from metals, counteracts inflammation. It stimulates BDNF along with curcumin also stimulating BDNF, and it's also a powerful anti-inflammatory. That's why I recommended all these supplements, because what do they do for your brain health? They boost it. Guess what else? Discounted tonight only, 15%. So there's limited supplies. The workshop's the only time that you'll get a discount on the supplements, because we want to incentivize you and encourage you to use these resources, because they will absolutely make a difference in your health. So the question is, what's the last 10 years of your life going to look like? I want everybody to look at that picture. What do you see in that picture? What do you see in the picture? Yeah, I mean, you could see the aging and the difference in the health. The guy's, on oxygen. But look at, but the saddest thing is not his health. What's the saddest thing? How it affects everybody around you. The people, your loved ones. When you're 10 years from now, your loved ones are going to know who you are. The question is, are you going to know who they are? That's what scares me the most. I want to be taking care of my loved ones, not the other way around. I don't want to be a burden. I want to be a blessing. It's what you do now that's going to determine where you'll be at 10 years from now. That's why I say information without application is hallucination. And we got some good drugs for hallucination, but we're not in Woodstock right now, are we? No. We're in reality. We're in reality. And what you learned tonight, did you learn something important? Yeah? Are there other people that could benefit from this information? The world is looking for answers. They want to get healthy, but they're being lied to death. They're being drugged, and they're just taking every pill, potion, and lotion you could think about. And so that's why I do these workshops, to help you. But there's a lot of other people out there that need it too. And I want to let you know that, since COVID's come and gone, I'm back out in the community sharing this. I donate my time. I do it as a community service, for small groups, places of work, worship. We'll go and sponsor a lunch or speak at a church, whatever. I'll go out. That's my job. That's my mission. That's my purpose. And if you have a place where you think that people will benefit from that, you have a small group or whatever, just let me know. And I'll talk to you about it, and we'll see if we can help in that fashion also. Other than that, bring them to a workshop next month. We'll be back in a few weeks. And before you leave, make sure that you make application. Get the brain boosting supplements. If you need an omega-3 test, if you know that's something that you need, get that done. The toxicity testing, Deborah can make the appointment there or tomorrow. And if there's any guests here that you want me to evaluate, your spine and your nervous system, we'll give you one of these friends and family coupons. Ask them on the way out if that's something that you need as well. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. I love and appreciate you guys. God bless.